Senator Tom Cotton, Republican from Arkansas, a member of the Judiciary, Armed Services, and Intelligence Committees. Senator, good to see you. Mitch McConnell got 16 Republicans on board to pass this enrichment bill for semiconductor companies. Did he get duped by Joe Manchin, or is Joe Manchin a con artist?
Dagan, good morning. It's good to be on with you. No, I wouldn't say Mitch McConnell did, but the bill sponsors of this bill did, in fact, proceed on the condition that the Democrats weren't going to try to pass another $1 trillion tax and spend bill. So I would invite those bill sponsors of that semiconductor bill to join me today in calling on every single House Republican to vote no. We should not be greasing the skids this week for the Democrats to spend $250 billion so they can spend another $500 billion next week. That's only going to add to the record high inflation Joe Biden has already created. And now that we're in a recession, the tax increases are only going to kill your jobs. This is a terrible bill, and we have to stop it.
Reading through this proposed spending bill from Schumer and Manchin, Senator, it looks like, as the bills always do, that the tax increases won't raise nearly the amount of money that they do, and the spending will be in perpetuity. Say the expansion for the premium enhancement for Obamacare, it's not going to last 3 years. It'll last, well, forever, meaning it's an entitlement expansion. And over again, King Rogoff, the famed economist, said, so it's not about a tax increase when the economy's slowing. It's about fueling inflation. With the chip bill and this idea from Manchin and Schumer, it's a combined more than $700 billion in spending. You are making the Federal Reserve's job, or they are, so much harder, and could lead to real financial economic calamity and Armageddon if the Democrats don't stop spending.
Yeah, Dagan, this bill is going to fuel even more inflation. It's not going to fight inflation, no matter what Joe Manchin says. And it's going to kill jobs by raising taxes on businesses. And by the way, those taxes will also fuel more inflation because businesses will pass tax hikes along to consumers. The last thing we should be doing is putting another $1 trillion tax and spend bill into an economy that has both record high inflation and a recession. That is something that only Joe Biden could have accomplished. But remember, the geniuses that gave us record high inflation during recession are also the geniuses that planned the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan last year.
The Manchin-Schumer spending bill, do you have any idea where Senator Democrat Kyrsten Sinema stands on it?
I do not, Dagan. I know that she's opposed many tax increases in the past, and frankly, she's been a much stronger voice against the crazed radicals in the Democratic Party than Joe Manchin has ever been. So I'll wait with the rest of the senators and see where Senator Sinema comes out. But frankly, no senator, Democrat or Republican, should be adding another $1 trillion tax and spend bill into an economy that has both record inflation and a recession.
But can you explain then those 17 Republicans who signed on and voted yay? I think even Bernie Sanders voted no, nay, nada, niente on the chip bill. But the 17 Republicans who voted for it, Senator, this is an industry that is a high margin, lucrative business that is loaded with money. And they just spent another, it's like close to $300 billion, $280 billion on it. What's their reasoning?
Well, Dagan, I think they're trying to get at a genuine problem, which is the threat to supply chains, especially China's threat to semiconductor supply chains. I didn't think this bill approached it in the right way or had enough guardrails to prevent the Chinese stealing our innovation or to keep these companies from doing business with China. But putting aside the merits of the bill, a condition of this bill, according to its sponsors, was the fact that the Democrats were not going to pass another $1 trillion tax and spend bill. So that's changed in the last 24 hours. So I would invite the bill sponsors again to join me in urging every House Republican to oppose this bill today. We shouldn't grease the skids with $250 billion of Democratic spending this week for another $500 billion of Democratic spending next week.
Yeah. And of those 17 Republicans, only 2 of them are up for re-election. So what did the other 15 do to the Republicans who are running in November? I digress. I want to ask you, Senator, about the Democrats appear to be turning up the pressure on Attorney General Merrick Garland to bring charges against former President Trump over the January 6th riots at the Capitol. An op-ed in the New York Post by Andy McCarthy, a Fox contributor, argues that Garland is in a very tough spot. Andy McCarthy wrote this, quote, "For all its posturing as a rule of law pillar, the Biden Justice Department, like the Biden administration broadly, is cowed by the Democrats' hard left base," adding, "The Democratic base's most cherished desire is the prosecution of Donald Trump. Garland knows that prosecuting Trump on flimsy grounds would rip the country apart. He's also worried, however, that Biden's left flank is poised for mutiny if there is no indictment." Your reaction to that and the pressure that Merrick Garland could be under?
Well, color me unsympathetic to Merrick Garland's position. He's an ivory tower liberal who spent 25 years sitting up in a courtroom divorced from the real world. He came into the Attorney General's office last year, though, and revealed himself as a partisan hack. He's the one, remember, who sicked the feds on parents going to school boards concerned about their kids' education. He's the one who refused to arrest protesters who were outside of justices' homes in violation of federal law. He should resign in disgrace. And if he doesn't, Joe Biden should fire him. And if he won't, then we should impeach him come January.
Has Joe Biden fired anyone, Senator? I mean,
No,
Alejandro
because-
Mayorkas still has a job.
Well, unfortunately for Joe Biden, if he fires anyone, it just points the finger back at himself because he is the root of his own administration's problems. He's the one that delivered record high inflation, that put us into a recession, that ordered the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. Joe Biden has to blame for the results of his disastrous policies.
Senator Tom Cotton, thank you, sir. Great to see you.
Thank you.